Start on the US equity story, and Anna was pointing out that volumes are going to be thin. We're getting some updates in terms of the AI story, Anthropic coming through with a new model. European stocks not far off record highs. The FTSE 100 had a really decent session, fresh record high yesterday. What are you looking at in terms of what the impulses are going to be for the equity markets today?
Yeah, so, the price action we saw yesterday was incredibly whipsaw. I think on an intraday basis, it's pretty difficult tape to read. But I think, what we've been talking about throughout the week very much remains in place. There's a lot of concern about the AI trade. What is this large capex spending going to result in? And what are the displacement effects we're going to see in industry, and who's going to get caught in the crosshairs? So, when cyclical growth is relatively strong, a lot of these cyclical companies, people are happy just to head into those and, avoid this kind of AI theme. And then from a regional perspective, like I said earlier in the week, Europe's previous weakness, its lack of exposure to IT, is now acting as a strength, and it's been a source of attracting flows. And like you mentioned, the FTSE as well, that's another good index. It has that cyclical, that commodity exposure, a strong financial sector. And so I think until clarity on the AI displacement effect is resolved, I think we'll continue to see more of this trend.
OK, so AI displacement, that rotation, the sort of software stocks coming under pressure continues to be a theme then, Adam. What do we do? What do central bankers do? They've been kind of quiet, it seems, on the AI theme and what this does to underlying economies. But I know we've been hearing from the RBNZ. We were speaking to a guest just moments ago who was telling us that they thought, despite what the market did with the Lagarde story, that actually this could be hawkish for the euro. I mean, what's your thinking about global central banks right now?
I think ultimately we have kind of seen a bit of a dovish inflection point since the start of the year. You take something like the Bank of Canada, the ECB, they were biased towards potentially hiking at the start of the year. That's gone away. For the Fed, the conversation has gone, from 1 to 2 cuts this year to 2 to 3. And I think, we have potentially overshot a little bit there. As you said, the AI theme is incredibly important for central bankers. And we actually saw from Fed's bar yesterday that he was actually, a little bit more cautious than, Kevin Warsh is expected to be, which suggests that, Kevin Warsh may struggle to get the Fed on board with kind of some of his views. But, there's been a bit, at the margin, some other dovish impulses. Bank of England, that's increasingly dovish. And, going back to the ECB, I saw this Lagarde story this morning, and my kind of take is it's not really a tradable event at the moment. We don't know who could take over. We could be a dove, it could be a hawk, and then even when they are in place, we don't know how much of an effect they're going to have on monetary policy. So, yes, it's an interesting headline, but for, a tradable event, I don't think it's really that important at the moment.
Is the BOE still tradable? Does the CPI of today change your calculus in terms of how far and how fast the Bank of England can go?
I think it just validates what we were talking about yesterday. CPI, all it had to do was really print in line. Yes, it's a bit above the Bank of England's expectations, but ultimately it plays this narrative that disinflation process is on track. Yesterday's labour market data set us up for a March cut. The bar to do that already was relatively low. I don't think anything we've really seen in the data has really kind of changed that view. I think, we do get this second cut in 2026, but I think it may come slightly towards the end of the year. I still think there's a bit of reticence on the MPC, and that could potentially keep pound pressured in the interim. If you combine that with political risk as well, I think that'd be incredibly thematic for the pound.
OK, thank you very much, Adam.